Welcome to Step 2 of the South Point YZ250F Hot Cam Installation Guide. In this video, we'll perform the valve clearance inspection and adjustment procedure. It is very important that you check the valve clearance or lash after installing your new hot cam. It is the customer's responsibility to ensure that the cam has been properly installed. Failure to perform this inspection and adjustment can result in serious engine damage. Before beginning this step, you should have first completed the hot cam installation procedure, Step 1, and it's a good idea to have all the required tools ready in advance. The bike should still have the spark plug lead, valve cover, flywheel inspection cover, and cam chain tensioner assembly removed. In order to complete this procedure, you will also need something to write on. Let's start by going over the required special tools and supplies. You will need a good quality caliper or micrometer. The use of these tools is beyond the scope of this installation guide, but you will need to know how to use them to measure the shims. You will also need a good quality set of angled thickness or feeler gauges. The range of these feeler gauges must be from 1/1000th through 20/1000th of an inch. There are many good pre-bent gauge packages available commercially. We use the Motion Pro set in this procedure. If you don't have a set of pre-bent gauges, you can try bending some of your existing gauges to fit, although it is always preferable to use gauges that are specifically designed for measuring valve clearances. Since you won't know until you have measured the clearances exactly which shims you will need, you can either wait to purchase the correct shims, or you can order the convenient Hot Cams shim kit available for your bike. The Hot Cams shim kit contains several of each size shim available for your engine. With the Hot Cam shim set, you can avoid repeated trips to the dealer, since you will always have the correct part on hand. And since your bike will require periodic adjustment as it wears, this is a good long-term investment and a great way to save money. Now for some additional background information on the YZ250F valve train. This model has a lifter and shim configuration with 5 shims and 5 lifters, one set for each valve. Each lifter has a shim beneath it that rides on top of the valve spring retainer. The intake cam has 3 lobes that push downward on the lifter-shim combination as the cam rotates. The exhaust cam has 2 lobes which work in the same way. This results in a total of 5 valve lifter-shim sets that will require inspection and possible adjustment. Beginning with the intake valves, first identify the locations where the thickness gauges must be inserted. There are 3 places that you will insert the gauges on the intake side. It is very helpful to draw a diagram with circles in it to represent the 5 valves. As you take the measurements, write them down next to the circle that corresponds to that valve. Working from the right side of the bike, measure each of the 3 intake clearances, starting with a gauge that is 0.15 millimeters thick. Always be as accurate as possible when measuring, and repeat as many times as necessary to get the most accurate reading. When you've got the final measurement, write it down and proceed to the next valve until you have measured all 3 intake valve clearances. Now, compare the measured valve clearance to the clearance that is specified for your engine. For the YZ250F, the specified intake clearance is 0.15 millimeters or 0.006 inches. If you measured, for example, 0.12 millimeters, the clearance is a little low, and you will need to decrease the size of the shim in order to increase the clearance. Here is the formula for calculating the new shim size. You can see from this example that you would need a shim that is 0.03 millimeters smaller than the shim you are currently using. This is where the measurements from the earlier procedure come into play. When you installed the hot cam, you measured the thickness of the existing shims. You will need that number to calculate the new shim size. By our example, you would need to use a shim that is 0.03 millimeters smaller to arrive at the specified clearance. This is just an example, so use your actual measurements that you wrote down to calculate the proper clearance. Repeat this calculation for each of the 3 intake valves, then do the 2 exhaust valves in the same way. For the exhaust valves on the YZ250F, the valve clearance should be 0.20 millimeters. The exact same formula applies to the exhaust valve clearance. It is possible that all 5 clearances are within spec after installing the new hot cam. Once you have determined which shims require replacement, purchase and install each of the new shims. Remove the intake or exhaust cam assembly as required using the same procedure outlined in Step 1. If only the intake shims require replacement, there is no need to remove the exhaust cam, and vice versa. To save time, only remove the cams which require shim replacement. Use the exact same procedure as before, making sure the crankshaft alignment is still in the correct position. Once you have the new shims installed, re-measure the new clearances to make certain that the new shims have resulted in the desired clearance for all 5 valves. If not, repeat the shim calculation and replacement process until all 5 valves have the correct clearance. When all of the valves are within specified clearance, you are ready to reinstall the cam chain tensioner, the valve cover, and all of the other parts you removed in Step 1. Use a long, flat screwdriver to fully retract the cam chain tensioner before inserting it into the engine. Turn the screwdriver clockwise until it stops. Then, hold the screwdriver in place while inserting the tensioner assembly into the cylinder. Refer to the Step 1 video for the reverse order of installation to complete the assembly sequence. As a final note, when you have reassembled the engine and are ready to operate, it is extremely important to follow the recommended break-in procedure. This procedure is outlined in the South Point installation software and also in the materials that accompany your hot cam. Run the engine for 20 to 30 minutes at about 3,000 RPM with a light load. Try not to let the bike idle for extended periods while breaking in the hot cam. It is also important to change the oil after the break-in procedure is complete. Be sure to read and follow any additional instructions that came with your hot cam. More detailed information about your YZ250F and a complete virtual service manual can be purchased from South Point at www.southpointmanuals.com. This concludes the South Point YZ250F Hot Cam Installation Guide. We hope you will enjoy many hours of improved engine performance with your new hot cam.